studies have shown that the quality of our relationships is the only correlating factor both to the how long we live and how well we live. They looked at diet, they
Really?
looked at exercise, they looked at hobbies, they looked at all these different dimensions and factors for human beings. Researchers from Harvard did. And what they found was the only factor about our quality and the length of our life is the quality of our relationships.
Alla, thank you for coming on. I'm always excited when guests come on, but there's something very compelling for me when I haven't really met somebody before, as is the case. We haven't really met. We just exchanged a few messages on LinkedIn. But I have looked at a little bit of your work, and I caught you on a couple of podcasts, and I felt like you had a kind of interesting story to tell, and I wanted to sort of explore some of the topics that you've worked with. So maybe what I've found works quite well is if people could give your own introduction, because I will miss things out and say it wrong. But for people that aren't familiar with your work and your journey, certainly I have seen you describe it as a twisty, twirly journey. So
Yes.
would you help ground this in a bit of your background so that people know who you are and what journey you've been on, just to give a sense?
Yes. So I've been in the design industry since 2005, so for 20 years now. Back then, I started out as an information architect. That was the only title that was
Yeah.
available. Moved into usability specialist, product designer, service designer. I went through all the changes in the industry that there were related to design. Early on in my career, about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, maybe 12 years ago, I was feeling a little, restless with design, with my careers. And I was at a mid-level by that point. And I was feeling a little bit restless. And I wasn't sure if this is what I wanted to do long term, if design is what I wanted to do long term. And I hired a coach, and I didn't even know at that time that coaches were a thing. I think I heard about it on another podcast that I was listening to at the time. And I hired a coach and realized, oh, I like this coaching thing. This sounds interesting. And so I went and I got trained in and then got certified in it's just general coaching, just coaching skills, basically. And since then I've been coaching mostly designers and design teams, how to work better together on relational skills, on career skills, and also bringing coaching skills into my design work, with facilitation, workshop experience, creating experiences for stakeholders, being able to create alignment. Um, and and then I moved into actually using my design skills in creating employee experiences and leadership programs internally within organizations. And during this time, I actually had my son. And I gave birth. And that was, as a woman, when you give birth, it's a very big, I don't know if you notice this in your partner, but it's a very big life change to
Yeah,
give birth
definitely.
to a child. It's not just you have another human being, you as a person, as an individual, really go through a really gigantic shift for yourself and your identity. Before you were not a mom, and now you are. It's a very big shift. And through that process, what I became aware of is that a lot of the organizations that I've been working with and design teams that I've been working within didn't feel psychologically safe to me, even though they were talking the talk and they said that they want to be, but that's not what actually bore out in the day-to-day. It just didn't feel safe to me. And I took my lived experience and I actually wrote a book about how to design cultures, teams, of psychological safety. And it's called A Culture of Safety.
Could I I'm
Yeah.
thank you. That's really helpful to ground it for people. And I want to ask a question, and I ask this with care, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm really curious. You mentioned like from lived experience. So were there examples like in some of your design, some of those cultures you were in, where you had this, you first realized like what is this? Like, what is this culture? Is it toxic? Like, how did you first see those signals that you were in something that wasn't safe? Like, what happened for you?
Um, I mean,
And I
even
ask
starting
that with
from the
care. So, if whatever feels
yeah.
comfortable to share.
I kind of again there was this process of giving birth and to a new human being and everything sort of I feel like reorienting inside of my body inside of me. I was able to kind of get a little bit of a perspective on my history within the industry and even starting out, as a junior information architect as a designer at that time. Um I started like initially didn't seem toxic to me. It just seemed normal. Like this is what corporate life is like. This is what a modern workplace is like. But upon reflection, I started to notice like very unhealthy things like things a lot of women experience a lot, which is, if I offer an idea, it gets dismissed. If a man offers the idea, he doesn't. But also, I've had experiences where I would walk into a meeting and the men would be huddled around looking at naked pictures of
Really,
people. Yes.
really, wow,
Um, I
God.
mean, then they would like very quickly close their laptop when I walked in, but it
Mm,
was very uncomfortable in that sense. Um, Also, there was a lot of, well, you can't say there were like meetings before the meetings where like, you can't say certain things in this meeting because that's going to offend the boss's boss. So we can't
yeah.
say certain things. We have to be very careful not to upset anyone. So there were like limitations. There were kind of editorializing of what you're allowed to speak about, what topics you're allowed to bring up. That was very often the case. And also I think this may still be the case, but a lot of times as a designer, I was often pressured to just crank out designs so that to
Yeah.
keep the devs busy, you
Yeah.
know,
God, I've heard that so many
and
times. That's so familiar.
yeah, I mean, like they're like, well, we need more stories. Like we need those designs. We have to keep the devs busy, but like without really taking in or giving me time to like really design or understand the end users and really test the designs or anything. It's like no, just crank it out, right? Um and this is
And
I
what does
think
that
why
mean when someone says crank it out? Like, like what are they actually like? Are they saying like I'm trying to translate what they're actually saying. They're saying ignore all your processes, ignore everything
yes,
you've learnt, come up with something that is sort
come up with
of
some wireframes, give it to the devs.
imagined, and it
Yeah,
better be good.
yeah,
Is that
right.
what they're really saying? I'm just trying to
That's
sort
really
of
what they're saying. Yes. They're really saying we don't really care about the process. We don't actually care about our customers or end users in any way. Just do your best, make it as usable as you can, and give the wireframes to the devs as quickly as possible. Quicker would be better.
that is yeah, that is like I feel for most people listening, I bet you they can relate with that, but I kind of feel like it needs to be said. For a designer, that is an extremely stressful thing to do.
It's a
Like
very stressful thing to do. Yeah,
it's sort of like I don't know, it's a bit like saying to a translator, like, don't really listen to what the person's saying, just translate.
right,
On live
right.
TV or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
do you know what it's quite a pressure to put onto an individual, I would
And
say.
when I would push back a little bit, like, well, we need to do some research or we need to at least usability test this or we need to get some
Yeah.
feedback, right? Like any kind of feedback, anybody else's eyes on it. Um, I literally, this is part of my toxic workplace experience. I literally would be pulled away into like a side meeting where very like patronizing way would explain to me business and that I don't understand business and this is part of business and we don't have time for that design process nonsense, basically.
And what's really happening in that conversation, like coming back to this, like what are they really saying? Like, are they saying like your needs don't really matter here? Or what,
Well,
like
that we
what are
don't.
they really
Well, I
saying?
think what they're saying is we really don't value people over money, over profit. We don't value people. We don't value people's opinions, and yours included, mine included.
Yeah,
That's what they're
yeah,
actually saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And even in the heyday where, like, I mean, I think design now is really in a tough spot. But like even like when I was coming up as a designer, and like where design was everywhere, from a business perspective, why design was supported at that time was because, like, you know, for firms like IDEO and Frog and those kinds of like big firms, kind of we're able to sell the case that design is what's going to get you the profit
yeah,
that you want.
yeah,
And so still, it wasn't that, you know, the organization was customer centered. It never was. It was usually either product centered or engineering centered or sales centered, like depending on what the product was.
yes,
Um, and it like it wasn't buying into human centeredness in general. It was like,
yeah,
oh, this is the means to the end of how to get more profit, and that's why like designers are often treated as like wireframe monkeys, I guess, like just get it done. And also why right now been so many layoffs because they're like, oh, we'll just use AI to make the wireframes,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or the designs or whatever. We'll just have AI do it, so we don't need the designers
It
anymore.
strikes me that that's a really I'm thinking a lot of younger people, and I'm thinking like that seems like a really good, because I just feel like something that you need, something that I needed anyway, is like orientation. When I
Yeah,
arrive in a new job, there's all the sales that you go through in the job interview, and then you
right.
actually get in there, and then it's like, oh, right, this is actually what the real job is. And there's that orientation, and I heard you say it there. It's sort of like whether it's like sales led or product led or people led, and it's like really understanding what does that actually mean, and what organization have I found myself in? Because I think I imagine that for people that once you know that, even if you don't like it, that was probably still helpful because you're able to
Yeah,
translate the
because now you're
signals.
working in reality, like in what's
Right.
actually happening in the
Yes.
organization
Yes.
versus what your hope is
Yes.
happening in the organization. And for a long time, the design industry, I think, has been hopeful that we can educate our way into the business valuing design, or we can champion it, we can evangelize it, we can provide enough decks to get a seat at the
If they
table.
just understood X, if they
Yeah,
just understood
right,
Y, then that would move the needle, and suddenly I'd be
right,
given, a period to do the work properly. It's that kind of
right.
thought, isn't it?
That's right, right. Myself and again, like if I'm a higher level, like myself and my team, like give us the resources, that the investment, the time to really be able to do it. And just very honestly, like that, just I haven't seen that pan out anywhere. I haven't seen that pan out in the industry. It's just a lot of effort for something that is not working and has not worked. And
Yeah.
especially now, again, with AI coming on board, organizations are really thinking like they really have always thought of design as a cost center. And then they're thinking, oh, we can lower our cost there because AI can do it for us. We don't need those designers anymore. I'm sorry to say, but I also just want to kind of couch it in really what's happening in the industry right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think this is this is the cold anxiety and sweeping feeling that I was having a conversation with someone the other day, that the design industry is effectively contracting right now. Like it's in a pullback. It's getting smaller. Teams are getting downsized. Roles are getting they have to do more for less. It's that kind of thing. Coming into the kind of work that you've done, this doesn't sound psychologically very safe.
Well,
This
it hasn't
landscape
been,
that we're
right?
painting right now, right?
Right. And I feel like it's getting more unsafe now like over the last 3 years or so. It's
Mm,
been more
mm,
and more
mm.
unsafe,
Mm,
especially now, even to the point where, as designers, again, we don't know, are we going to be replaced by AI tomorrow? Is that going to be the
yeah,
decision that's going to come down?
yeah, yeah. What's your relationship with that? Like, are you in a different place with the work that you do now? Like, do you feel insulated from this, or are you right in the thick of it?
Well, I am doing different work now, because as I said, like I started design and then I went to coaching and then I kind of
Yeah,
incorporated coaching in design. And now I'm um, really working to like just apply my design skills to build an organization that helps with creating better relationships between people. So I'm building what I'm calling a social health organization. And I want to elevate social health, which is the health of your relationships, to the same level as physical health that we all have to take care of, right? Mental health that we all have to take care of, and social health. Because studies have shown that the quality of our relationships is the only correlating factor both to the how long we live and how well we live. I know, they looked at diet, they
really.
looked at exercise, they looked at like, hobbies, they looked at all these different dimensions and factors for human beings. Researchers from Harvard did. And what they found was the only factor about our quality and the length of our life is the quality of our relationships. So that's actually what I'm focusing on right now.
Meanwhile, almost 99% of the Western Hemisphere is focused on making money, not building
Right.
relationships,
That's right.
right?
It's like, this is me trying to stay sane in that, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. So tell me about this work. So what happens? Like, what do you asked by organizations to come in to to help people think about relationships differently and build them? Is that how your work goes?
well, they're not asking yet, but what I'm trying to get them to
Yeah.
understand is to get organizations to start thinking about it, because especially as they move towards AI and downsize their teams, that has a real human impact on the relationships that I've built with my colleagues and across departments and across, especially if it's a very big organization, across different organizational units. And so what I'm actually trying to do is offer a social health assessment as the first step for people to understand, like, how are the relationships going on our team. It could be like for a specific team, or it can be cross departmentally, it can be at an organizational level, because as we all know and seem to somehow forget, and because I think there's like also this very hyper individualized sort of perspective when it comes to work right now, um, that you take care of your career and you get things done and you have your own individual performance, but it doesn't make any sense because there's nobody that gets any work done without other human beings. There's nobody that lives in a bubble and is able to get any work, any kind of project, anything completed, anything built, anything shipped without other people. That's not
Mm,
possible.
mm, 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 mm.
And the quality of that work, of what gets built, what gets shipped, what gets designed, all of it, is 100% dependent on how well my relationships are going with those people that I'm working with. And if
Yeah,
there's not great, it's going to be slow and it's going to be hard, and you're going to see it in the products that you create. And then, the customers are going to be like, what is this? And this is how we're getting enshittification everywhere. It's just like, this is crap. Yeah, because AI designed it and there were no human relationships involved.
I was on a project last year, and there were points where the designer didn't want to confront the dev because it was a bit pokey between them. And because of that, certain it wasn't like the whole thing got degraded, but just like a little bit. Like there was like, oh well, if they had had a better relationship between them, it would have made the whole thing like a bit better.
Yeah,
And that person was like, oh, I'm not gonna like ask about that. I'm not gonna ask about that because it was just
yeah,
like anxiety producing, and like there was a poor dynamic between them, and I could see that.
exactly.
And it's just that like something that I often notice with organizations, like they don't they don't, not unless they've got a very forward thinking HR person, like they don't think of this as something that's a thing. It's like, no, we need like agile training, we need scrum coaches, we need, you know, like training, but it's never like on the relationships. You know,
Mhm.
and yeah, I agree with you. In every job I've been in, it's probably been the number one enabler or disabler.
Or
Yeah,
just exactly, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. What do you think? What is for people that maybe just to make it kind of more real? Like, what does what does sort of good relationships look like and mean in a culture? What would a culture that is thriving on its strong relationships
Mhm.
feel like? What would it like? How would you describe it?
Well, that people actually spend time thinking about and reflecting on their relationships. Like, okay, like let's just take the example that you provided. There was a designer that was not feeling maybe feeling some tension with a developer, right? So in a healthy culture, that would be something that somebody could like they could say to each other, like, hey, I'm feeling some tension here, like we're something's not working. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And have honestly have the skills to talk about that. I feel a lot of us, again, grew up in this very extreme individualist in the Western Hemisphere culture, very individualistic culture. And so we're not ever modeled these skills of, well, how do I have these conversations about relationship? Not about the role that you're playing or the work you're doing. It's not feedback, you know, it's about how we feel about each other and how we're behaving with each other. And being able to hear from somebody else like, hey, that thing that you did, it really upset me
Mm,
or it hurt my feelings.
yeah,
And being
yeah,
and being able to say, take responsibility and say, oh, I didn't know that. I did hurt your feelings. Not, oh, that wasn't my intention. Oh, you're making too big a deal out of it, right? Like that's often the response that people give. But actually be like, I don't care if it wasn't your intention. Your impact was you upset somebody. And
yeah,
then you can say,
yeah.
yeah, I did upset you. Tell me more about that. What happened for you there?
I
Like
mean,
really slow down, like, and like talk about it. Actually talk about your relationship.
that for some people might be absolutely terrifying. What you're suggesting,
Absolutely. Yeah. 100% it
right?
is. 100%. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you know, to actually like when they think of that, there'll be one person on the team that they just don't gel with, and the thought of having a conversation like that, like something that I shared with you ahead of the call was something that it's a different language, but I think it fits with this is the idea of like transactional culture versus relational culture,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
sort of how to spot it. Uh, the one example that I often reflect on. It was I just started at an agency, and I was allocated to go into a team. So it's in the remote era, so I get a link. Click on the link. First call, haven't met anybody, don't know anyone's name, uh, barely know what the project's about. First call, all cameras are off. My camera's on, everyone else is off, which is always really interesting to me. Cameras, I find it fascinating when everyone turns their cameras off, and then straight away there's a screen share of a spreadsheet that has a list of tasks in it, and it's like, yeah, Danny, so you're going to be doing this. We need this by next week. No, hello, no, this is so and
Right.
so. I don't even know what they look like. Um, and
Right.
and and then somebody else came in, and then one of them was effing and dropping the f bomb on this other person who was late, and that's my first 10 minutes. Now I've been around the block a bit, so I just thought it was mildly amusing, shocking, and made me think I don't want to work here. But I was thinking, like,
Right.
for someone who's their first job, like I was just thinking, oh, I'll leave. But for someone who's his first job, like as you had said earlier, like you just think maybe that's what's normal, But like
Right.
that isn't certainly not like I don't think that's normal, and it's not healthy. Like just to
I feel like it's like on the
signpost that.
opposite side of what I just described. Like that's like complete opposite side of like, and then I'm like, oh, let's talk about our relationship. And this is like,
Yeah,
let's not even introduce ourselves to each
yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I guess it's I mean, it is on a spectrum, right? Like there's different levels of relating that happen in different organizations. Um, but when you describe like that very transactional, like, okay, let's get into the work, here are the tasks, right? Um, and we're going to check them off,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And I'm
And
just there to tick off a task that
yeah,
there's no interest in me as a person or what I'm
that's right.
good at or bad at. Absolutely no interest. It's just this is a task, can you execute?
Right. Right. Um, I just feel like for more junior designers or folks entering the field, like if they enter into this kind of environment, it feels very much lost at sea. Like I don't, yes, I can do the tasks, but I don't have the context around it. I don't know how I, as an individual, can contribute the best to any of this. It really just feels like somebody threw me in and left me
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
And biologically, we are wired as social creatures. Like we are, like it's biological, like it's in our bodies, it's in our nervous systems, it's in our brains, it's how our bodies work. And like, babies that were given up, let's say for adoption, but weren't like they were fed and clothed but weren't nurtured, didn't do well. Like they didn't do well because we're at the base of it, we're
Social
social
creatures.
creatures,
Mm,
and we need connection as much as food and water and air. We
mm,
literally cannot survive without it. This is
mm,
why,
mm.
like, a very transactional workforce or environment can actually be very traumatizing to people. And this is what I also talk about more recently. And I've gotten another certification, which is in um, relational trauma coaching, kind of deepened like my coaching experience around it because I see so much of that in the workplace. And what people misunderstand trauma, they think it's like, oh, somebody going off to war and, there's violence and death and it's a terrible thing, which some people do. There are soldiers, people do go off to war, that happens. But on a day-to-day basis, all that trauma is stress that is just too overwhelming for our bodies without the protection of connection. So it's stress that like let's say for designers, it's stress, just chronic stress for years and years of working within a transactional environment. Very stressful for our bodies that again need connection as much as they need food and water. We don't have it at work. At the place we spend the majority of our time and our life. That we spend more time at work than we do with our families at home,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So over a period of time, and then add to that. Maybe you're a woman and your ideas are dismissed like I felt that they were. Or you're a person of color and you're not being paid as much or given as opportunities as much as colleagues of other races. And you just kind of like it compounds.
It's like losing our humanity, like that's
It
what came to my
is.
head. It's like, if we're stripping away the social you know cues and and different little aspects, asking people how they are, and stripping it right back to jury tasks, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, what are we doing? There was something, he meant it in a different context, but it comes to mind as a previous guest, and he was talking about like where we're coming into an age where design is reduced to, you know, shuffling through Jira tickets. And there's something that
Yeah.
just really, when I think of what you had just said, of just like, if you take away like any kind of, culture that is caring, and you strip that down to this transactional thing, and then you're just shuffling through Jira tickets, it's like, it's kind of, you can kind of see why AI could replace that, couldn't you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's like, where's
Absolutely.
where's the humanity? Where's the person in all of that? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that I don't know. I guess at this stage, a lot of corporations are sort of headed in this direction, but it's not sustainable. At the
No.
end, I really do think that that's going to fall apart.
Mm, mm, What do you think that people can do who find themselves in these cultures? If for people that maybe are listening and they're thinking like, I don't think I'm in a very safe culture. Sometimes quitting isn't necessarily an option. Like if you've got bills and the way the market is right now, like it's not
Yeah.
that easy to get another role. I'm just wondering, like, are there any things that you think people can do to, if they don't have someone like yourself
Yeah.
coming in, what can they do?
Well, I still would look for a different job. Like, I would
Yeah,
still
right. Okay,
recommend that
fair
they
enough.
look for one. I
Yeah,
mean, don't quit, but, like, look for one in the meantime. But also, and this is also for myself, like, I wanna reframe it, like, I try to reframe it for myself even, but it's like, the job is there to support me financially and provide some stability in that sense. It's not the place where I find connection. It's not the place where I find meaning. And but I still need that in my life. So where can I go and find that elsewhere?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's about maybe joining something in your local community or starting a community group, virtual or locally, finding people that have similar interests than you. But it could also be even with colleagues, like forming a kind of an informal employee group, right? Like where you maybe just go out, you have like a even virtually, like you can have like little Friday drinks together
yeah,
or something, right?
yeah,
Where um, you start to you initiate the effort to get to know the people that you work with, and build relationships with them and build care with each other, rather than waiting for the organization to provide that for you or to have that culturally, which many do not, and they don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
invest in that.
I think it's something that that resonates there for me. Like I had a job last year where I thought going in that my number one objective was to create a good outcome, and I mean that in terms of like good research. So that was my primary mission, is to create good research. And so I didn't invest in relationships. I didn't make an effort to meet people. It's all remote, but I didn't make an effort to chat to anybody unless I was working directly with them. And then in that case, I would be in a largely transactional mode. And in some ways, I was like very effective, but I kind of peed off some people. And I think
Mm,
they found it. There was one person in particular who I think probably left with a bit of bad taste in their mouth. I think, I think it was largely just we didn't really understand each other, you know, and I have some regrets around that. And
yeah,
in I took another job this year, and I took a really different tact to it, not knowing what the culture was, because I do contracting, so I don't know what
yeah,
I'm going
yeah,
to do. Really. You know, you get these half an hour interviews, you've got no idea what it is. And something that I started to do is to put in 30 minutes with everyone on the team when I start. And I also I send around a manual of me as well.
yeah.
Um, and I'm quite vulnerable in that manual of me. I'll put in a few things in it that are quite honest and, you know, um, fairly truthful, and it worked wonders actually, um,
Mm,
because I would just put a half an hour in and I say, hey, I don't have any objective here other than to just say hello, get to know you, and I would just ask firstly, like, you know, where do you live, you know, what
right, right.
what, and try to not go into work, and then eventually I would just say, like, what can I do to work, like, how can I help you get what you need to get done? Like, you know, there are
Mhm.
things that I can keep in mind, even if I didn't think I was going to work with them, I just ask it anyway. And
Yeah,
that was something that I have found to be really, really helpful. You know, that I didn't need permission to do, you know. But I was just sort of thinking about what you were saying, and yeah, like how you can create those groups or those pockets of some kind of relationship, right? Because if you don't
right.
invest in relationships, then and the culture doesn't do that by default, it's not going to happen,
It's not gonna happen. Yeah.
especially in
And
remote.
the excuse I often get, people are like, "Well, I'm too busy." And I'm like, "Well, yes, but you would actually be able to get things done more effectively and efficiently if you had better working
Yeah,
relationships with
yeah,
folks."
yeah. I mean, this must really affect people's mental health. I mean, did was there a
Absolutely.
time that you experienced that where you were just feeling like my mental health is just, you know, like, how did you
Yes.
gain this perspective that you've got? Did you sort of have some reflection on some experiences and then think, I can't work this
Well,
way?
my mental health really suffered when I was working, like when I had managers with whom I didn't have good really, like I didn't feel really close, connected to, or that they cared for me or wanted the best for me. Um, and I remember there was a point where I was waking, like I was crying every night after work because I was
Yeah.
just so miserable, and I really got depressed. I felt a lot of
Mm,
depression. I started to get physically sick more often, colds, flus, like those kinds of things. Really didn't want to go in. Like at that point, I was still going in physically, pre-COVID. Um, and didn't want to go into the office, like really, really miserable around that. And yeah, I mean, I literally went to therapy because I was like, I need help. I don't know, like I can't actually function. Like it was very, very difficult to get up in the morning and
yeah.
feel motivated and do any work. And the thing that I felt the most with my manager was that they like just felt like no matter what, I just felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough and it wasn't right. Like there was always like this nitpicking of like there's something wrong with it. And I'm always happy to take feedback and like improve things and iterate. And it wasn't that. It was just like there was no way like I could get to a right place.
Which is really like messy for your head.
It just really, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is where also I was like, when I was reflecting, I'm like, wow, that was so psychologically unsafe. Like there's literally nothing I can do or say that is actually right or would be accepted.
Wow.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know a lot of people have like these similar kinds of relationships with their managers, right? Where they're like feel very scared of their managers, feel that their managers look down on them or kind of punch down a little bit, and um, don't have their back, don't aren't really championing them and trying to like bring them up in their career. And so again, for junior folks that may be listening or mid-career folks, like your manager is really your relationship with your manager is really the thing that's going to be impacting your mental health, social. So your obviously your social health if it's not a good relationship, but also your career. Because if you're if you're feeling terrible every day, you're getting depressed, your motivation's waning, it's just not good to like you're not going to grow at that point. You're kind of getting smaller and contracted. You're not growing as a designer, as a professional at that time.
Yeah. Did you say you said something like our abilities, our operating IQ? I think I heard you say this. It
Yeah.
drops like 50% if you don't feel safe.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. So we literally can't think when we don't feel safe because um feeling safe, and this is in our nervous system, feeling safe is not meaning you feel calm. It just means like, if I have a feeling, if I have a thought, I can share it with you. And I don't feel like I'm going to get punished if I share it with you. But there's no way I could have, like, I didn't at that time feel like there was any way I could tell my boss, like, I don't feel like I can do anything right by you. Although
Yeah.
all I ever really wished was to be able to say that, like to have
Yeah.
the space to be
Yeah.
able to have that conversation, like, or just to say, like, this isn't working for me. We really need to figure out a different way to work together. This isn't feeling good to me.
Did you not have that language, or did you think that it wasn't actually safe to say those things because it couldn't?
Both, both. I didn't
Yeah.
have the language. I was just feeling upset and I couldn't like
Yeah.
quite
You're in the
get
church.
there as to what was upsetting me. And again, because when I'm not feeling safe, are my like, the executive
It's
functioning
down.
shuts down because we don't need it right now. We just need to run away. Like, like our biologically, we don't need to analyze anything when there's a threat to our bodies. All we need to do is run away or fight the danger. That's it.
You I
So,
think
yeah,
I think I think I heard you say something like there's like three pillars. The physical, the emotional, and the psychological safety. Like
psychological.
those are the three like pillars that if they don't
Yeah.
it, they that's like prerequisites for a safe environment.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is that how you operate when you're thinking about how to improve a culture? You're looking at
Yes.
those beats, if you like. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. But safety, again, for human beings is only created in relationship. So am I physically safe with you? Meaning, am I going to be harassed in any way? Am I going to be discriminated against in any way? Am I in danger of being fired from my job? Because that goes directly to my ability to support myself and, have shelter and food and
Yeah.
physical needs. And emotional safety, can I in our relationship tell you like, hey, I'm really feeling criticized by you, and this is really hurting me, and I feel upset every night. This needs to change. Can I say those things to you? Right? Or do I have to like go to my therapist and try to do it by myself? you know? And psychological safety is, hey, I have an idea of like how we could do things differently, or I noticed this process over here really isn't working, or I don't think we should all be all off camera, as you were kind of
Yeah.
saying, right? Like,
Yeah.
and being able to say that to somebody and not being worried that they're going to be like dismissive of you, or retaliate against you later for saying those things.
Yeah. I think those are some really good, like, I think of those like markers of like, if somebody is listening to this and just going, yes, 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 then that's probably a fairly good sign that things aren't quite right where you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's interesting. I, I'm curious, like, I suppose I'm thinking, I've got something here that you said, um, yeah. Oh, well, okay. So this is something that I wrote that I wanted to put to you. So I've been in a culture that I found confusing.
Mm,
They took a lot of pride in how nice they were to everybody. And it was like, oh, we're a really nice team, and we all look after it. Like, they'll message that a lot. But then I had some experiences in that team where, like, we had a retro, for example, and some of the team were saying, this isn't right, this isn't right. And somebody messaged and said, I don't think that was a very good retro because there were some new people in it, and, it doesn't create a good impression. And I just thought that was so interesting. It's like, oh, right. So they think the retro is about making it kind of like theatre, and that we
hmm
shouldn't really be airing stuff, especially not if there's new people, and we should maybe be like, I think that it's confusing when when everyone is nice. And I don't mean to
And
suggest that people
that's,
should be toxic, but there has to be challenge, doesn't there? You have to be able to
you
to
have to
to
be.
have uncomfortable conversations. Like, I feel like
Well, if
it's not
everybody's
safe
nice,
if
then
it's too nice.
yeah. Well, if everybody's nice, then nobody's honest.
Right.
That's what you get. And it is toxic because it's toxic positivity. We're going to pretend that everything's fine. And then there's no learning from that. There is
Yeah.
no there's no growth from that. Because if we're not allowed to talk about things that aren't working, how can you make anything better?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And how does a team overcome that, where they maybe are telling themselves that they're being truthful and nice, but like really they're not? How do they overcome something like that, do you think?
In modern in current like modern companies, organizations, the only way to overcome that is the leader has to model a different way. The leader needs to say, okay, we can be honest with each other with kindness.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we have to be nice and kind are different things, right? And then the leader needs to show this is what that looks like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they need to show like actually
Model
say
it.
something honest with
Yeah.
kindness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
invite others, and the leader can say, I mean, preferably the leader will say, I'm not very good at this myself because we've been operating in this other way for a really long time. Let's all practice together how to be honest and kind at the same time, and knowing we're going to mess up and we'll apologize to each other around that. But what we want to do is build that muscle and build that strength to do that.
Because they've learnt to be like that. That's what someone said to me once.
Yes.
It's like, how why did they learn to be like that? Like, obviously
hmm
some people have just picked it up from what was there and are just mirroring what they see. But at some point, a certain homogeny of the group have learnt that this is the language we use in this project and this team, and
Yeah,
that's where the safety begins and ends.
that's
And that
right.
might be
But
because it
also
was
it's
modeled.
reinforced
Yeah.
because you said like after that meeting, there was a note that went around like, oh, that wasn't good. Well,
that was
what
like a
so then
change
what
agent.
behavior are you reinforcing
Yeah, and
right now?
that's like an anti-change agent, like trying to course
Right,
correct it because something kind of went out of the pattern, and it's like, no, 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 come back. You're
right.
breaking you're breaking the culture that we had, and I'm trying to bring it back. I mean, I find this
That's right.
fascinating.
And you get that reinforcement loop, right? So you're like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to say those things. I'm not allowed to point to things that are not going well. So I'm gonna sweep that under the rug."
Yeah,
But eventually, actually, from a bit very much of a business perspective, that does come back to the business in the form of less profits because you're not listening to things that need to the customers around things that need to be changed. There may be real issues with the product in some way that people are ignoring and pretending it's not there, you know, and it could be really causing serious business issues,
yeah.
but we're not allowed to talk about it.
How have we found ourselves in this state? It's madness. What do you? I know. So the only thing I can do is laugh about it. I mean, you know what? You know how I survive some of these cultures is I find allies. That's what I do. Because
That's
you're
right. That's
reminding
what
me.
I'm
Having a
saying.
laugh with you
Exactly.
now is reminding me of what I do in those cultures. Is that I find someone that I can just kind of go, come here. Am I
This
just
is
going crazy?
absurd,
I'm
right?
not crazy.
Like,
This is mad. And then that
right.
can be really cathartic. Is to find someone
Yes.
who can kind of read what's happening and can kind of go, no, you're not going crazy. This is mad, and
This
that
is,
I
yeah.
found supportive. So
Exactly. And that's why I was saying, like, find that group of folks internally, like get together, have some venting sessions, be like, validate each other. Like, I mean, you're seeing this too, right? Yeah, 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 I
yeah,
am. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally. So I'm wondering, just thinking about looking ahead now. We talked a bit there in the era of AI and what it might mean for
Yeah.
work. Like, what's your perspective of like the way things are going in the future? Like, how how do you think it's going to go? And do you what's in your crystal ball? What can we expect for
I
relationships
don't have a
and
crystal ball.
no,
Yes, I guess I just feel that, um, the trend that I'm seeing is like even more chipping away at our humanity, especially at work and how we're working together. And so that's why I'm working on the concept of social health and creating um, basically training, coaching, community around our relationships and the skills that people don't have around that, um, as an answer to that. Because that's what I'm seeing is happening. It's like a consistent eroding of our humanity, to an extreme right now, and it's going to continue for a while until I think like it bursts basically. And so I want to give people the skills, the access, the community, the connection that is being chipped away at. So that's why I'm going in this direction. That's my answer to
mm,
it.
mm,
I want to live in a different world than that. I don't want to live in that. It's
yeah,
literally not made for human beings. And the biology and neurology and physiology of human beings.
not sustainable, is it?
No.
No.
And what I remind myself of, and I love for listeners to like grab this, take this as your own, is all of this, how we work together, what we're doing, how much time we spend working, all of it was somebody's idea. We can come up with other ideas of how to do that.
Alla, I think that is an excellent point to end on. That's yeah. I just like I want to add
And
more
that's my
to it, and I'm like,
invitation.
no,
That's my
that's
invitation.
perfect. Yeah, yeah. Thank
How
you.
else can it be? Yes.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. I've
Thank
really enjoyed.
you.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, thanks
Me
for
too.
exploring this with me. And yeah, thank you for coming, and thanks for yeah having a
My
conversation.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.